This is Hero of Sparta. He is nearing the 20th year of his campaign, and he had hoped to be on the doorsteps of Rome by this point. Though more troubling was the fact that the Romans appeared to be on his doorstep, between the Gaul to the north and the Romans encroaching to the south. Hero and his army was starting to become a bit stretched thin. Without any delay, let us show the Romans Greek hospitality. Reinforcements from both sides are delayed, though it doesn't really affect the Greeks. However, it would mean a smaller second wave of Romans depending on the length of the delay. Positioned in the usual formation, the Greeks marched to meet the rapidly approaching Romans. While the Greeks were finishing their last steps, the Romans were still rushing to find their places. Having the high ground and hoping to maintain it, the Cretans were able to start firing while the Julii continued to get into position. The light infantry were quick to fall from the archers' fire. The Julii's reinforcements had arrived and were quickly making their way over. The Greeks, while not participating, were not too far behind. The Romans made no move to counter the barrage of arrows and allowed their men to fall, and helpfully rearranging their line so their troops were always in range. The reinforcements made it to the main Julii army, and another shuffle of troops happened, while also remaining in range of the Cretans. Of course, the Cretans couldn't remain firing forever and were soon out of arrows. The Julii front line was severely weakened, and it was in the perfect state for a few good charges from Hero's cavalry. Racing down the hill, Hero charges into the shaken Hastarte, causing the unit to break almost instantaneously. The cavalry were quick to move on to the surrounding units, breaking one before moving into the rear of another unit of Hastarte. The Hastarte were able to fire off a round of Pila before they too joined the ranks of fleeing men. Hero pulls back to the other side of the battle line. He spots a couple of barbarian mercenaries on his way and changes course. Mercenaries weren't exactly known for their loyalty. Racing into the men, the barbarians were quick to give up the fight. Hero intended to go back across and deal with the mercenaries on the other side, but the Julii were starting to get a little too close for comfort. He pulls back to behind his Spartans. It was now the Spartans' time to shine. Marching towards the Romans, the stalwart men engaged, with a few remaining by the side to intercept any that wished to flank. Pushing into the Romans, the Spartans made short work of them, causing them to break en route within minutes of entering combat. To the sides, the Romans thought they could flank us. Spartans had moved to intercept the fools. With most of the Julii fleeing, the Greek cavalry is sent in to mop up the routing troops, and with the Roman general approaching from the back, Hero is hurriedly pulled back over to intercept. The Spartans had failed to get into position in time. Galloping towards the enemy general, Hero forces them back and hits their rear. Losing a couple of men in the engagement, he pulls back, luring the Julii general towards the steadily approaching Spartans. Only just catching the edge of the general's unit, the Spartans pull him into combat, with the Julii infantry rapidly approaching, though another unit of Spartans were called over to deal with them. In the meantime, the Greek cavalry had been doing a wonderful job of mopping up the Roman deserters, though they did find themselves in combat with some plucky Julii. Manius had remained with the main bulk of the army, and had fled with them. Chased down by Greek cavalry, the light cav were able to take down the Roman family member. Now there was just the other one to take care of. Hero once more charged in, determined to take the Roman down. Just as he got there, the Romans called out surrender. Hero rejected the call. He wanted that general dead. The rest of the light cavalry is sent out to clean up the field. Soon enough, the battle is over, and with the Romans limping away with 28 men. Hero loses about 80 men, though a majority were made of his bodyguard and about half were healed back up to strength. The Carians were to eat well tonight. With one army dealt with, it was time to deal with the other. Hero does some quick merging of his troops. He is getting worryingly close to losing his first full unit of Spartans. Numbers aside, it was time to move back north once more. The turn ends and the diplomats around Bylazora have yet to shift. Yet another fully loaded bireme graced our seas. If Hero wanted to get anywhere in this campaign that wasn't Greece, these ships needed to be stopped. Having the stronger fleet, Admiral Dion is pulled up from the south, and with 70 triremes making up the Romans' fleet, Admiral Thrasidius' 20 biremes would have no chance against them. Better to wait for backup. Hero makes it to Salona, but was only just out of reach of the Gaul besiegers, though if the barbarians did decide to attack, at least he would be there able to act as reinforcement for the town. Another year comes to its end, and I'm going to be personally honest here, I have no idea how long those bloody diplomats have been stood there. Don't they have something better to do? Anyways, the Armenian diplomat has been able to find us before we found them. Offering a trade rights, we eagerly accepted, and in return we offered a trade of map information, to which the Eastern diplomat accepts. Pirates attack the awaiting fleets, utterly defeating both, but meeting their end at the Julii fleet that had dropped off its load. Odysseus of Sicilia asked for Hero's sister's hand, and seeing as he was both young and did not have any bad traits, he was promptly approved. While the Gaul army may have quickly fled back to their own land, a new army has appeared. Perhaps giving up on moving their armies via boat, Flavius Probus had arrived at what must have been some tour around Italy. Building a watchtower to keep an eye on the Gaul, Hero moves south to intercept the Brutii before they can cause too much trouble. In the east, contact with Parthia is established. Gaining trade rights and map information, Proatus is becoming quite efficient. To the north, in an attempt to foster friendship and peace, we offer a nice 2,500 denarii to the Dacians. They declined the offer and counter with them giving us 125 denarii, and proclaimed that we should accept this gift in the spirit of a warrior brotherhood, and, well, only a fool would turn down free money. We attempt to do the same with the Gaul. Perhaps a nice 1,500 denarii will soften them up to a ceasefire. But of course they reject free money. Another turn, hovering diplomats, and hey, what do you know, Apollonia is under a siege again, and the Gaul are once more hovering around Salona. Salona could wait. Pushing the Brutii back, Hero eventually forces them into combat. With light infantry and half of his force being made of mercenaries, while Flavius himself was a decent commander, it wasn't a good prognosis for the survival of the Roman force. Lined up as usual, the Cretans were making quick work of the front line, having taken out all but a few of the Hastarte and at least half of the Velitae. With the Romans selfishly not reshuffling their line, the Greeks moved forward into range, and the Cretans continued to cut through the Brutii. Flavius bravely held his ground under the fire of the archers, standing resolutely as his men fell around him. He thought himself chosen by the gods as arrows whizzed past his face and mount, and yet none had hit him. Of course, that didn't last for long, and the general fell like any man. The barbarian cavalry thought they could flank the Spartans, but with the general taken care of, the Cretans could now turn their attention to the other unit of cavalry. The mercenaries, possibly seeing the foolishness of attacking spearmen, were quick to change their minds and surrender. The archers take out as many of the light cavalry as they could as they fled from the battlefield. It was a good day for the Cretan archers. One group of Romans down, another one to go. Decius didn't bring anything special with him, his army consisting of mostly light infantry, with some cavalry and war dogs thrown in to spice things up, though an interesting decision was made in the inclusion of Town Watch, seeing as they're just one step up from being mere peasants. Decius did not appear to be the most intelligent of men, maybe that is why the Julii sent him on this pointless endeavour. The Roman raced ahead of most of his army, stopping mere metres away from the Greek front line. He seemed surprised when he came under fire from the Cretans. The Julii did not wait long before rushing into the line of Spartans, though some were smart enough to go around the sides. But with most of the main force beginning to flee, including the general, focuses could change. While things were going well at the front, to the rear a unit of Spartans had been caught out, and while they were currently handling the situation, the Romans were very quickly beginning to surround the men. Hero was sent charging in from the other side of the line, but at this rate it wouldn't be in time. With the Julii already breaking and wavering, a solid hit from the Greek cavalry could be all it took to save the Spartans. Racing fourth, with Hero not too far behind, the cowardly Romans ran at the sight of the superior cavalry. Hero and his entourage of cavalry would chase down the spineless Julii. Much the same was happening on the other side of the battle. The Greek cavalry are deployed to mop up the stragglers and deal with the last few foolish units that had yet to give up. With much racing around and back and forthing, the Romans had either escaped or had been cut down. A loss of 29 men, while not ideal, was acceptable. Now to deal with the last of the encroaching Romans. Led by the Cretan archers, the peasants of Apollonia were ready for their moment of glory. Being downhill from the Cretan archers, it didn't look good for the 2 units of Velitae. As the men shuffled back and forth from the tree line, the Cretans didn't waste any time before unleashing their arrows. The Romans fell quickly, with the front line already almost gone and the Cretans hadn't even used half of their quiver. When the arrows ran dry, the peasants charged in. The Velitae were able to fire off 1 round, but it didn't deter the peasants, who just carried on running and forcing the Romans back. The other groups of peasants weren't too far behind, and together they all took down the Romans. They would have their glory, and no Roman was going to leave this field alive if they could help it. The general falls, and only a handful of men remained, who they very eagerly chased down. Winter turns to summer, and still more diplomats around Bielazora. Is it a popular holiday destination or something? On the 20th year of Hero's journey, his firstborn son finally becomes of age, ready to continue the legacy his father began. The boy had picked up a couple of good traits from his father and some not so great ones. A genius in battle, but not too good in the event of managing things, and unlike his father, Xanthippus came with a morale bonus, though at the cost of 1 command. With the Romans no longer a problem, it was time to deal with the Gaul once more. Returning north, Hero is just out of reach of the Gaul force. Looking upon them, he recognises that general. Vindex had returned, and this time, Hero wasn't going to let him escape. Summer turns to winter, and the Roman diplomats continue to work their wiles. Although the Thracians do present us with an interesting offer, a ceasefire for 7,500 denarii. It was doubtful that with just 2 cities the Thracians would be doing well enough financially, and in theory it should discourage the Dacians and Scythians from jumping into a war to join their allies. So while a little bit costly, the benefits appeared to outweigh the negatives. Pirates continue to be the bane of our existence, defeating 2 fresh fleets. On the coast of Apollonia, Lentulus Commodus fought to bring the peasants of Tarentum on a holiday tour around Greece. The Greek borders were not open, and Hero came down and told them as such. Hiding behind the city, the Brutii were safe for now. Xanthippus sized them up, but he would do better to wait for his father. We try negotiating for a ceasefire with the Gaul once more while Hero is busy, but we are months more, and probably not for the last time, rejected. Hi there guys, I'd just like to thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, consider leaving a like or even subscribing to see more content like this. Thank you all again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!